The first time Alex Carter noticed the floorboards creak, he thought it was just the age of the building complaining beneath his weight. The apartment was old, Boston old. Brick and mortar from another century, with pipes that coughed at night and windows that rattled in the wind like loose teeth. Rent was dirt cheap, which for a law student drowning in student loans was reason enough to sign the lease without thinking twice. It had been 3 weeks since he moved in, long enough for the novelty of independence to wear off but not long enough for the place to feel like home. The furniture was second-hand, scavenged off Craigslist. The walls bore yellowish stains, faded watermarks that told stories Alex didn't want to know. His landlady, Mrs. Green, lived upstairs, an elderly woman with thinning white hair and a face carved deep with lines. She rarely left her apartment, and when she did, she walked slowly, clutching the banister as if the stairs might swallow her whole. That night, it was the creak beneath his desk that caught his attention. Alex had been buried under torts and criminal procedure notes, fighting the lull of midnight coffee, when his foot nudged against a corner of the rug and shifted it just enough to reveal something odd. One of the boards didn't line up with the others. He frowned, leaned down, ran his fingers across the seam. The plank felt loose, as if it had been pried open once and forced back into place. Curiosity pulled harder than reason. Alex slid the chair back, got to his knees, and dug his nails into the narrow edge. The board resisted at first, then gave way with a sharp pop that echoed through the room like a gunshot. He froze, heart pounding, half expecting Mrs. Green to come stomping down the stairs with her cane. Silence followed. Inside the hollow space beneath the floor lay dust, a few cobwebs, and something wrapped in brittle leather. A book. Alex pulled it out, coughing as dust billowed around him. The object was heavier than it looked. Its cover stiff, edges frayed, a strap of dried leather kept it shut. And when he unfastened it, the smell of rotten paper hit him like a punch. The first page was a scrawl of ink, blackened with time. April 3rd, 1992. The boy screamed longer than the others. I almost admired him for it. Alex blinked. His first thought was that he'd stumbled upon some twisted diary, maybe the delusions of a mentally ill tenant. But as he flipped through more pages, the words dragged him deeper. Each entry described an act of violence, abductions, murders, dismemberments, cold, clinical notes, cataloging dates, times, and locations with disturbing precision. He turned to one entry at random. June 14, 1996. She was a nurse at Massachusetts General. Followed her for 3 days. Watched her leave work at 10:15 every night. Tonight, she didn't make it home. Alex's stomach turned. He pushed the book away, wiped his palms on his jeans as if the words themselves could stain his skin. His rational brain insisted it had to be fiction, a sick fantasy, but the specificity gnawed at him. He recognized street names, even building numbers, places he'd passed on his way to class. The diary didn't just tell stories. It logged crime scenes. He closed the book and shoved it back into the hole, replaced the board, dragged the rug over it. But sleep didn't come easy. Every time he shut his eyes, the words returned, each line sharper than the last, burrowing into his thoughts. By morning, his curiosity overpowered his dread. He found himself back on the floor, pulling out the book again, flipping through its pages in the daylight. If it was fiction, it was obsessively detailed. If it was real, that possibility chilled him. At lunch, Alex carried the book across campus to the law library. Between stacks of dusty case reporters, he typed a few names from the journal into the archive database. It didn't take long before the screen delivered a punch to his gut. Boston Globe, June 15, 1996. Nurse disappears on way home. Suspected foul play. No suspects identified. He searched another, and another. Each entry matched a cold case, filed away decades ago, all unsolved. Alex leaned back, heart hammering. His fingers trembled against the keyboard. The diary wasn't fiction, it was evidence. Blank, underscore, blank. The smart thing to do would have been to march the journal straight to the police. But something held him back. Maybe it was the paranoia that they wouldn't believe him. Or maybe it was that gnawing, irrational fear. What if turning it in marked him as the next target? That night, he sat at his desk, the journal open like a wound, forcing himself to read deeper. The entries shifted tone the further they went. Earlier ones were full of details, gleeful, almost proud. But by the late 90s, the writing grew scattered, rushed, desperate. The last few pages were nearly illegible. Words carved into the paper with shaking hands. Then came the final entry. March 5, 2024. Next one, Alex C. Law student. Lives below me. He doesn't know yet, but he will. The room spun. Alex's throat went dry. His body suddenly ice cold. His own name stared back at him. Ink still dark, as if written yesterday. The date, he checked his phone, was only 7 days away. He slammed the book shut, backed away as if it might leap at him. Every shadow in the room stretched long, sinister. The old pipes groaned overhead, and Alex swore he could hear footsteps pacing in Mrs. Green's apartment. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number lit the screen. Did you find it? Alex's breath caught. His thumb hovered, frozen, as dread climbed his spine. Blank, _ blank. The next morning, he tried to rationalize. Maybe it was a prank. Maybe someone planted the journal as a sick joke. He told himself that again and again as he walked to class. Though every passing face on the street looked sharper, more watchful, like someone might be studying him the way the diary described its victims. He sat in criminal law lecture, unable to focus, replaying the entry over and over in his mind. He almost convinced himself he imagined the text until his phone buzzed again. Same number. You shouldn't have read that far. He left class early, heart pounding, darted into the bathroom, and locked himself in a stall. His reflection in the scratched mirror looked pale, haunted. He typed back one word before he could stop himself. Who? No reply. The silence was worse. Blank, _ blank. That evening, Alex climbed the stairs to Mrs. Green's apartment. He hadn't spoken much with her since moving in, only exchanged polite nods. When she opened the door, her cloudy eyes widened in surprise. Alex, she rasped. Something wrong? Her living room smelled of mothballs and old fabric. Cross-stitch frames lined the walls. Scenes of flowers and scripture verses. He forced a smile. Just checking in. Everything okay? Her gaze lingered on him longer than necessary. Then she nodded. Fine, dear. You're settling in downstairs? Yeah. It's quiet. Good. A pause. Quiet is safe. Something in her tone unsettled him. He almost asked about the apartment's history, who lived there before him. Whether she knew about the journal, but the words stuck in his throat. Instead, he excused himself and fled back downstairs, where the silence pressed tighter around him. Blank, _ blank. 2 nights later, he couldn't ignore the sound anymore. Scraping, faint but distinct, coming from the floor beneath his bed. Like nails dragging wood. Alex sat up, ears straining. The noise stopped. He held his breath. Then it started again. Scritch. Scritch. Closer this time. His courage snapped. He grabbed his phone, dialed Boston PD, and explained about the journal. The cold cases. The threats. The dispatcher took his statement with polite indifference. Promised to send someone to check it out. An hour later, 2 uniformed officers stood in his apartment, flipping through the book. One shrugged. Looks like fiction to me. But the names match unsolved cases. Could have copied from newspaper archives. Plenty of weirdos out there. Alex pointed to the last page. His name scrawled in ink. That doesn't bother you? The officers exchanged a look, then chuckled. Kid, we've seen creepier stuff in frat houses. We'll keep the book, run it through records, but don't lose sleep over it. They left with the journal tucked under an arm, leaving Alex more exposed than ever. That night, his phone buzzed again. You shouldn't have given it away. Blank, _ blank. The following days blurred together. Alex jumped at every sound, avoided empty streets, checked over his shoulder until paranoia dug claws into him. He tried to tell himself the police had it under control, but doubt gnawed at him. On the 6th day, the text came again. Tomorrow. His breath hitched. His palms dampened. The date circled in the diary had arrived. As midnight approached, Alex sat awake in his apartment, every light blazing, clutching a baseball bat he found in the closet. His eyes darted to the windows, the shadows pooling in corners. Then, from beneath the floorboards, came the sound again. Scritch, scritch. And this time, it didn't stop. The scratching was deliberate, not the random skitter of rodents or the settling of wood. Each scrape sounded measured, purposeful, like someone digging through the walls, inch by inch toward him. Alex gripped the bat tighter, knuckles white. It's just pipes, he whispered to himself, though he knew no pipe in Boston made that sound. The noise stopped, silence stretched, Then, 3 heavy knocks from directly beneath his bed. Alex shot to his feet. The bat raised high. His pulse hammered so loudly it drowned out every other thought. He backed toward the living room, eyes locked on the floor, half expecting it to cave in. The phone buzzed in his pocket. He fumbled it out. Another text from the same number. Open the door. His stomach flipped. Which door? The apartment door, or the trapdoor beneath the boards? He glanced toward the hallway, where the front door loomed under the yellow glow of a flickering bulb. Then came a second knock, not from below this time, but from the door itself. Alex. The voice rasped through the wood, brittle and cracked like dry leaves. Alex, open up. I know you're awake. He froze. The voice wasn't Mrs. Green's. It was male, low, yet oddly familiar. Alex backed into the kitchen. He dialed 911 with shaking fingers. The line rang twice before a mechanical tone interrupted. All circuits are busy. Please hold. Panic surged. He slammed the phone down on the counter, eyes darting to the door. The knocking grew harder, more insistent. Alex. This time, the voice wasn't outside. It was inside, whispered close to his ear. He spun, swinging the bat blindly through the air. Nothing, just shadows. His chest heaved. The lights flickered, then went out. Darkness swallowed the apartment. Blank, blank. The glow of his phone was the only light left. He clutched it, the screen painting his face ghostly blue, and dialed again. This time, the call connected. Boston police. What's your emergency? Someone's in my apartment. Alex hissed. They're outside my door. Inside. I don't know. There. The line crackled. Then silence. Hello, hello. The call dropped. His phone buzzed immediately after with another text. Stop calling them. They can't help you. Alex's hands trembled so hard he almost dropped the phone. He bolted to the window, ripped the blinds aside. The street outside was empty, washed in cold orange light from a single street lamp. Snow had begun to fall again, soft and relentless. He thought about climbing out, running into the night, but his apartment was 3 stories up. No fire escape, just the drop into black pavement. The scratching resumed, this time from the hallway closet. Something was in there, slowly, bat raised. Alex crept forward. The closet door rattled once, then went still. His breath fogged in the cold air. He reached out, fingers brushing the handle. A crash behind him, glass shattering. He spun. The kitchen window was broken. Shards scattered across the counter. Snowflakes drifted inside. Alex's legs carried him before his brain caught up. He sprinted out the front door, down the stairwell 2 steps at a time, heart thundering against his ribs. He burst into the frigid night air, breath clouding before him, and didn't stop running until he reached the glowing neon of a 24-hour diner 2 blocks away. Inside, warmth hit him like a wave. The place was nearly empty. Just a tired waitress behind the counter and a trucker nursing coffee in the corner booth. Alex collapsed into a seat, chest heaving. The waitress, gum snapping between her teeth, raised an eyebrow. You look like hell. Hon. Coffee. Police. Alex gasped. I need to call the police. She slid a landline phone across the counter. His fingers shook as he dialed again, forcing the words out when the dispatcher answered. This time, the line held. He explained everything. The break-in, the texts, the diary, the threats. The dispatcher promised to send a unit. Alex stayed in the diner until 2 officers arrived. Their presence both a relief and a letdown. He'd expected FBI jackets, SWAT gear, something more than 2 beat cops with weary eyes. They drove him back to the apartment. The broken glass in the kitchen window was real enough. But there was no intruder. No footprints in the snow. The closet was empty. Could have been a break-in. One officer said, but with nothing stolen. Maybe a prank. It's not a prank, Alex insisted. Look at my phone. The texts. But when he showed them, every message had vanished. The inbox was empty. The officers exchanged looks. One patted his shoulder. Get some rest, kid. Stressed as weird things. They left him standing in the cold hallway, his breath shaking. Blank. The following day was a blur. Alex drifted through classes in a haze, half convinced he was losing his mind. His classmates noticed the dark circles under his eyes, the twitch in his movements. But no one asked. Law school was full of broken people. One more wouldn't stand out. That evening, he avoided going home. He lingered at the library until closing, walked the city streets until his feet ached. Every time he turned a corner, He felt eyes on him. Every reflection in a shop window seemed a fraction too slow to match his movements. At midnight, he finally returned to the apartment. Exhaustion winning out, he checked every lock twice, shoved a chair under the doorknob, and curled on the couch with the bat still in hand. Sleep came in broken fragments. Sometime before dawn, he woke to a faint sound. Paper rustling. He sat up, blinking in the dark. The rug near his desk had been pulled aside. The floorboard pried open. The journal was back. It lay open on the floor, pages fluttering though no wind stirred. Ink glistened wet across a fresh entry. Alex crawled closer, heart hammering, eyes scanning the words. March 12, 2024. He tries to run, but it won't matter. I've always known where to find him. He will end where they all ended, below. Alex's breath caught. He tore the page free, crumpled it, shoved it into his pocket as if destroying the words might alter their meaning. Then he slammed the book shut and hurled it across the room. When it landed, a photograph slipped from between the pages. He picked it up with trembling hands. It was old, color faded, corners curled, a group of young men in law school graduation gowns. Smiling at the camera, one face stood out, sharp features, dark eyes, a grin that didn't quite reach them. On the back, written in the same jagged hand as the diary, class of 1999. I am eternal, blank, blank. The next day, Alex dug deeper, between classes. He searched online archives, cross-referencing the photo. It didn't take long to identify the man in the picture, Daniel Green. Mrs. Green's son, a star law student in the late 90s. Brilliant, ambitious, but his name vanished from the records after 2000. No law firm, no court cases, no obituary, just disappeared. Alex's pulse quickened. If Daniel was the diary's author, then Mrs. Green had to know something. That evening, he climbed the stairs again, fists clenched. When she opened the door, her eyes widened as if she'd been expecting him. Alex, she whispered. He held out the photo. This was your son. Her hand shook as she took it. Tears welled in her eyes, though she quickly wiped him away. Daniel, he wrote the journal, didn't he? Alex pressed. He killed them. Her gaze darted past him. Down the hall, she stepped back and motioned him inside. The apartment smelled the same, mothballs, dust, but tonight it felt different. He followed her to a cluttered sitting room, where stacks of yellowed newspapers lined the walls. She sank into an armchair. The photo clutched to her chest. You shouldn't have found it, she said softly. It wasn't meant for you. Why me? Because Daniel, he likes patterns. He liked the law. He liked students. You reminded him of himself. Alex's skin prickled. Where is he now? Mrs. Green's lips trembled. For a moment, he thought she wouldn't answer. Then she whispered, downstairs, blank. A cold wind rattled the windows, though every one was shut. Alex's mouth went dry. What do you mean, downstairs? Her eyes flicked toward the floor. You think those boards only hide a book? She rose shakily, her cane tapping against the wood. She moved toward the hallway closet, the same one Alex had heard scratching from, and pressed her hand against the wall. With a groan, a panel swung inward, revealing a dark passage beyond. Alex's stomach lurched. The stench hit first. Rot, mildew, the unmistakable odor of damp earth. A narrow staircase descended into blackness. Mrs. Green's voice was almost a plea. I kept it hidden. I kept his secrets. But he never left. He's always been here. Alex's grip on the bat tightened. His instincts screamed to run. But his legs carried him forward, toward the gaping maw of the stairs. Down below, something shifted. A scrape, a breath, and then, from the darkness, hello, Alex. The courthouse buzzed with an electricity that only high-profile trials could generate. Cameras flashed outside the stone facade. Reporters shouted questions, and bystanders pressed against the barricades hoping to catch a glimpse of the players inside. Inside courtroom 3B, polished oak pews filled with journalists, curious citizens, and law students hungry for spectacle. The prosecution's table gleamed with neatly stacked files, color-coded tabs poking out like flags of war. Across the aisle, the defense sat with their client, Michael Lang, a man whose sharp navy suit and calm demeanor barely betrayed the storm swirling around him. Detective Rachel Moore slid into a bench near the front. Though she wasn't testifying that morning, she wanted eyes on everything. This case was personal now. Too many threads were unraveling. Too many coincidences circling around her own life. Judge Kincaid, silver-haired and famously strict, entered with the bailiff's booming command of, "All rise." Everyone obeyed. The tension in the room was palpable as the trial officially began. District Attorney Samuel Grant stood, buttoning his charcoal jacket. He was a seasoned prosecutor with a flair for drama, and his opening statement didn't disappoint. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," Grant began, his voice smooth yet commanding, "you will hear the story of a man who believed he was untouchable. A man who built a kingdom of corruption inside the very institution sworn to uphold justice. You will see documents, hear testimony, and watch the lies unravel." He gestured toward Lang, who sat expressionless. The defendant used his position as a financial advisor for city officials to launder millions of dollars. He bribed, blackmailed, and silenced those who threatened to expose him. And when whispers of exposure grew too loud, people disappeared. This trial is not about technicalities. It is about truth. It is about justice. Rachel studied Lang carefully. He leaned slightly toward his lawyer, whispering something, then smirked as if enjoying the show. That smugness made her stomach twist. The defense attorney, Victoria Hale, rose next. Tall, blonde, and fiercely intelligent, she had a reputation for dismantling witnesses like a surgeon with a scalpel. Her tone was calm, collected. "The prosecution will weave you a story of conspiracy and greed," she told the jury, "but stories are not facts. You'll see no credible evidence tying Mr. Lang to the crimes described. Rumors, assumptions, and circumstantial threads, that's what the state will present. My client is innocent, and by the end of this trial, you'll see that for yourselves." As she spoke, Rachel noticed something unusual. Hale's gaze flicked briefly to the gallery, scanning faces, and when her eyes landed on Rachel, they lingered for a fraction of a second longer than they should have. The trial unfolded with meticulous rhythm. Witnesses came and went, files were introduced, objections flew. Rachel listened to testimony from financial analysts, city clerks, even an IT specialist who claimed servers had been wiped. Still, the defense countered with precision, planting seeds of doubt. At recess, Rachel stepped into the hallway to breathe. The air felt charged, her instincts humming. That's when her phone buzzed with a new message, "Unknown number. Stop digging into the past. You're next." Her chest tightened. She glanced around. The hallway bustled with lawyers and reporters. Yet she felt a pair of invisible eyes drilling into her. She deleted the message immediately, but the warning echoed inside her head. Later that evening, she returned to her apartment. The city skyline glowed against the dusk. Yet the usual comfort of home felt hollow. She poured a glass of water, sat at her desk, and spread out the files she had collected on Lang. Something about his network gnawed at her. One document caught her attention, a list of shell companies registered offshore. Most names looked random, but one leapt out, Eureka Holdings. Rachel froze. That was the same company tied to an old unsolved case from her rookie years, a missing federal informant who vanished under mysterious circumstances. Her mind raced. Was Lang connected to that disappearance too? She grabbed her old case notes from the bottom drawer, dust coating the forgotten folder. As she flipped through, memories of that year flooded back, long nights chasing leads, a body that was never found, the frustration of hitting a dead end. And then she saw it. A photograph clipped inside, the informant, a man named Victor Ramirez. Standing next to him at a fundraiser was none other than Victoria Hale, the defense attorney now representing Lang. Rachel's pulse pounded. Coincidence, or something deeper? Suddenly, a crash echoed from her kitchen. She spun around, heart leaping. Her gun was on the table. She grabbed it silently, stalking toward the noise. The refrigerator door stood wide open. A jar shattered on the floor. But she knew she hadn't left it that way. Her eyes scanned the shadows. Every nerve screamed alert. Then she saw it, her back door lock, broken. Someone had been inside. She swept the apartment, room by room, until she reached her bedroom. On her pillow sat a single playing card, the Queen of Spades. A chill knifed down her spine. That same card had appeared years ago at the Ramirez disappearance scene. Left like a signature, she had almost forgotten until now. Whoever was behind this was taunting her, dragging her into their game. The next morning, she stormed into Captain Harris's office. "This isn't just about Lang," she told him, slamming the Queen of Spades onto his desk. "This goes back years. Ramirez, the shell companies, everything is tied together, And someone broke into my home last night to make sure I know it. Harris frowned, picking up the card. Are you saying Hale's involved too? Rachel hesitated. She needed proof before making that leap. I'm saying Lang isn't working alone. And the people covering for him have reach. Deep reach. Then tread carefully, Harris warned. If what you're suggesting is true, we're not just talking corruption. We're talking a network that's been operating under our noses for decades. That evening, Rachel met privately with D.A. Grant in a dim corner of a diner. She laid out the shell company connection. The Ramirez photo, the card. Grant's face darkened. This could blow the case wide open. He said, but if we push too hard without solid evidence, Hale will tear us apart in court. Then we need to get that evidence. Rachel insisted. Grant leaned closer. What you're describing, it sounds like the Black Spades. Rachel blinked. The what? A covert syndicate rumored to control judges, politicians, even federal agents. It's whispered they leave playing cards as their signature. But no one's ever proved their existence. If Lang is tied to them, we're in way over our heads. Rachel exhaled slowly, the pieces clicking into place. The threats, the break-in, the old case, it all connected. But now, she wasn't just chasing a corrupt advisor. She was staring down a hidden empire. When she returned home, exhaustion weighed heavy, but sleep never came. Every creak of the building made her flinch. Every shadow a potential intruder. By 3 a.m., she gave up and drove through the city. Empty streets whispering with secrets. At a red light, her headlights caught a figure standing alone on the corner. A man in a dark coat. He lifted his hand slowly, holding another playing card. The Queen of Spades. Before Rachel could react, he stepped backward into the darkness and vanished. Her blood ran cold. Rachel drove through the night until dawn painted the sky a muted gray. Her mind replayed the image of the stranger on the corner, holding up the Queen of Spades like a warning flag. She should have stopped, confronted him, but instinct told her that was exactly what they wanted, draw her out. Expose her. Instead, she pulled into the precinct just as the first shift arrived. Coffee steamed in styrofoam cups. Tired offices shuffled paperwork, but Rachel moved with purpose. She headed straight to the records room. The Ramirez file, that was her anchor. If she could prove his disappearance tied to Lang and this Black Spades syndicate, the trial could turn in their favor. She scanned through archived case logs until she found what she needed: Ramirez's last known safe house. An abandoned motel on the outskirts of the city. She hadn't been there in years. Maybe this time, she'd see something she'd missed before. By mid-morning, she parked outside the decrepit structure. Weeds grew wild. Windows were shattered. Graffiti stained the walls. Inside, the air smelled of mildew and dust. Rachel swept the rooms methodically. Flashlight cutting through shadows. In one corner, beneath a rotting mattress, she found something she hadn't noticed before: a small tin box rusted shut. Her heart raced as she pried it open with her pocket knife. Inside were photographs, dozens of them. Some showed Ramirez with city officials, others at quiet meetings in dim restaurants. But one photo made her stomach twist. It was Michael Lang, shaking Ramirez's hand. This was it. Proof Lang knew the missing informant. Proof he lied under oath when he claimed never to have met him. Rachel snapped photos of the evidence with her phone before tucking the originals back inside. She couldn't trust the chain of custody yet, too many leaks in the system. As she drove back, she called D.A. Grant. I've got something. Photos linking Lang to Ramirez. I'll meet you tonight, somewhere safe. Grant agreed, his tone tight. Be careful. If you're right about the Black Spades, they won't hesitate to silence you. Blank. That evening, Rachel arranged to meet Grant at a private underground garage near the river. It was discreet, a place where echoes drowned out footsteps. She parked, the photograph sealed in an envelope under her arm. Grant's car was already there. He stepped out, trench coat pulled tight, eyes darting around nervously. You got them? He asked. Rachel handed him the envelope. He flipped through the contents, his jaw tightening. This could shred the defense. Lang perjured himself. Hale won't be able to spin this away. Suddenly, the echo of footsteps cut through the air. Rachel whipped around, gun drawn. Shadows moved at the far end of the garage. Police, she shouted. Show yourself. But instead of surrender, a gunshot cracked. Concrete chips exploded near her feet. She and Grant dove behind a pillar. Sniper, Grant hissed. Rachel peeked. firing a return shot toward the muzzle flash. The attacker moved with precision, circling, herding them like prey. Back to the car, Rachel barked. They sprinted low, bullets sparking against metal. She slid across the hood, firing cover rounds as Grant fumbled with his keys. Finally, the engine roared and they tore out of the garage, tires screeching. In the rearview mirror, Rachel caught a glimpse of the shooter stepping into the open. Black coat, black gloves, and a mask painted with the Queen of Spades. Blank, blank. The trial resumed the next day. Tension mounting. Lang remained calm, almost amused, while Hale sharpened her knives for cross-examinations. Rachel sat stiff in the gallery, scanning faces. Anyone could be part of it. The jurors, the bailiff, even spectators. The black spades had reach everywhere. During recess, she cornered Hale in the hallway. "How long have you been in bed with Lang?" Rachel demanded. Hale's eyes flicked. "Calculating, careful, detective. Accusations without evidence can cost careers." "I've got evidence," Rachel shot back. "Photos. Lang and Ramirez together. What do you think the jury will say when they see that?" For the first time, Hale's composure cracked. Just a flicker. But she recovered instantly. "Then I suppose we'll see how admissible those photos are. Assuming they don't disappear." Rachel clenched her fists as Hale walked away, heels clicking like a metronome of menace. Blank, blank. That night, Rachel barely slept. Her phone buzzed again, another unknown number. "Drop the photos, or your captain dies next." Her blood iced over. Harris. She sped to Harris's house, siren wailing. When she arrived, the place was dark, too quiet. She drew her gun and entered cautiously. The living room was overturned, papers scattered. "Harris," she called. From the back room came a muffled groan. She burst in to find Harris tied to a chair, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead. Relief and fury crashed through her at once. She cut him loose. "Who did this?" Harris shook his head weakly. "Two men, masks," said Queen of Spades. Rachel's jaw tightened. They were escalating, getting bolder. No one was safe. Blank, blank. 2 days later, the prosecution called Rachel to the stand. Her testimony was precise, professional. How the investigation linked Lang to laundering, the shell companies, the threats. Then it was Hale's turn. "Detective Moore," Hale began smoothly, "isn't it true you have a personal grudge against my client?" Rachel frowned. "No, I'm here to present facts." "But years ago, didn't you work on a case involving Victor Ramirez?" Hale asked. "A case that went cold under your watch?" The courtroom buzzed. Rachel kept her voice steady. "Yes, Ramirez disappeared. The case was unsolved. And yet, now, conveniently, you claim to have found new evidence tying my client to that same disappearance." Hale tilted her head. "Doesn't that sound like a desperate attempt to salvage your reputation?" Rachel bristled. "No, it's called doing my job." Hale smirked, turning to the jury. "Ladies and gentlemen, remember, suspicion is not proof. And desperation is not justice." Rachel felt the weight of eyes on her. But she also felt something else, a flicker of doubt creeping into the jury. Hale was good, too good. Blank, blank. That evening, Rachel met Grant again, this time in his office. Fortified with extra security, they spread the photographs across his desk. "This is enough to corner Lang," Grant said, "but we need something bigger. Something that ties him directly to the Black Spades. If we expose the syndicate, the whole defense collapses." Rachel nodded. "Then we go after the money. Follow the accounts. Someone's pulling the strings above Lang." Grant leaned forward. "You realize what you're suggesting? We'd be poking the hornet's nest of an organization that's been invisible for decades." Rachel's eyes hardened. "Then it's about time someone did." Outside the office, rain streaked down the windows, lightning splitting the sky. In her gut, Rachel knew the storm wasn't just weather. It was coming for her. For Grant. For everyone who dared to stand in the Black Spades' way. And the storm was only just beginning. The courthouse was packed tighter than ever on what everyone believed could be the decisive day of the trial. Rain hammered against the tall windows like a drumroll of fate, thunder shaking the city awake. Reporters swarmed the entrance, their headlines already half written in anticipation of a verdict. Inside, Rachel sat near the front, nerves taut. She hadn't slept in 2 nights. Every instinct told her today would end in blood, or in truth. Maybe both. Michael Lang looked confident, dressed immaculately, As if the storm outside couldn't touch him, Victoria Hale was poised, flipping through her legal pad with the calm of a woman who knew every move 10 steps ahead. But Rachel saw the faintest twitch in her jaw. The cracks were widening. District Attorney Grant rose to call their final witness. Your Honor, the prosecution calls Detective Rachel Moore. She took the stand, hands steady on the oath. Though her heart thundered harder than the storm, Grant guided her through the chain of evidence, the shell companies, the laundering, the photographs of Lang with Victor Ramirez. Then Grant dropped the hammer. He held up the rusted tin box Rachel had recovered. Your Honor, these photographs establish a direct connection between the defendant and a missing federal informant. They were hidden, concealed at Ramirez's last known safe house. And they prove Mr. Lang lied under oath. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Lang leaned toward Hale, whispering furiously. Hale rose for an objection. But Judge Kincaid waved her down. Overruled. Jury will consider the evidence. Rachel felt a flicker of triumph. But it didn't last. As Hale began her cross-examination, a commotion erupted in the gallery. A man in a dark coat shoved past security, drawing something metallic from his jacket. Rachel's instincts fired. Gun. She dove from the stand just as the first shot exploded. Chaos swallowed the courtroom. Jurors screamed. Papers flew. Deputies tackled bystanders. Rachel rolled to cover, pulling her sidearm. The shooter wore a black mask, painted with the Queen of Spades. Get down, she yelled. Firing, her shot clipped his shoulder, spinning him, but he returned fire, grazing a deputy. The assassin wasn't aiming at random, his weapon tracked straight toward Grant. Rachel sprinted across the floor, shoving Grant to the ground as bullets shattered glass above them. The assassin bolted for the exit, leaving pandemonium behind. Rachel was up in a heartbeat, chasing him through the courthouse corridors. Her boots pounded marble, echoing like war drums. He darted into the stairwell, 2 steps at a time. Rachel followed, breath burning, adrenaline sharpening every sense. They burst onto the rooftop, rain slamming down in sheets. The assassin turned, weapon raised, lightning flashing across his mask. This ends now, Rachel shouted, gun trained. He tilted his head, almost amused. You don't know what you're fighting, detective. The black spades are everywhere. His voice was muffled, distorted. Take off the mask, she demanded. Instead, he lunged. Gunfire cracked, deafening under the storm. Rachel ducked behind a vent, returning fire. 1 bullet tore through his leg, sending him crashing to the slick concrete. She closed in, weapon steady. Who sent you? She demanded. The assassin coughed, blood mixing with rain. The queen always protects her king. Before she could press further, he pulled something from his coat, a detonator. Rachel's stomach dropped. No, she screamed, diving. The blast ripped the night open, fire and steel tearing across the rooftop. Rachel was thrown hard against the ledge, pain exploding through her ribs. Smoke billowed, alarms wailed. When she staggered up, coughing, the assassin was gone, vanished into the chaos. Only the mask remained, cracked and scorched, lying in a pool of rainwater. Blank, blank. The trial recessed in turmoil. Jurors were sequestered, media frenzy exploding. Lang's smug composure wavered, but Hale held him together, promising control. In the DA's office, Rachel slammed the mask on Grant's desk. We can't contain this. The black spades aren't just covering Lang, they're orchestrating everything. Grant's face was pale. If the jury acquits, Lang walks free. And if he walks free, he didn't finish. He didn't have to. Rachel's phone buzzed again. Another unknown message. The queen is watching. Back down, or the next body is yours. She gritted her teeth. Fear was their weapon, but fear was also proof they were threatened. Blank. The next day, against all odds, the trial pressed on. Judge Kincaid demanded order, demanded justice. Hale delivered her closing argument with ice-cold precision, painting Rachel as reckless, evidence as circumstantial. Then Grant stood for the prosecution's final words. This case isn't about rumor, he thundered. It's about a man who believed he was untouchable. You saw the photos. You heard the lies. You watched violence erupt in this very courtroom to silence the truth. Ask yourselves, who benefits from silence? Who benefits from fear? Not justice. Not this city. Only Michael Lang, and the shadows he serves. Rachel's chest tightened. Every word was a gamble. The jury's faces were unreadable masks. After hours of deliberation that stretched like years, the jury filed back in. The foreperson's voice trembled slightly as she read the verdict. On the charge of perjury. Guilty. On the charge of money laundering. Guilty. On the charge of conspiracy. Guilty. The room erupted. Reporters scrambled. Deputies restrained Lang as he snarled at the jury. Hale stood frozen, her face unreadable, but her knuckles white on the table. Rachel exhaled for the first time in days. They'd won, or so it seemed. Blank. That night, Rachel drove home through streets still buzzing with news. But as she parked, headlights flared in her rearview mirror. A black sedan idled behind her. She tensed, hand on her weapon. The sedan rolled down its window. A woman's voice called through the rain. Detective Moore. Rachel froze. The driver was Victoria Hale. But gone was the courtroom polish. Her hair was down, her eyes sharp with something darker. You've won the battle, Hale said softly, but you don't understand the war. Rachel stepped closer, gun raised. The black spades. You're part of it. Hale smiled faintly, almost pitying. Part of it, detective. I am the queen. The words cut colder than the rain. Hale's sedan peeled away into the night, leaving Rachel standing in the storm, mask still lying heavy in her coat pocket. Lang was in chains, but the black spades were still free, and the queen had just declared war. The storm raged on, but Rachel felt something fierce rising in her chest, not fear, not doubt, but resolve. The black spades thought they could own the city from the shadows. But now they had her attention, and Rachel Moore didn't back down.